In Pursuit of Truth, this is your host, Sir Patrick Mack, the funkiest pursuit at truth around the interwebs. From the future, the near future, not the highfalutin, fancy, warp speed, intergalactic kind, alright? It's not like we got Klingons running around or anything. You could probably still find a cheesecake factory in your neighborhood. It's not fancy, that's all I'm saying. We got Q-posts to do, and I'm going to do them. So grab your coffee or whatever it is you're drinking. Fist bump your neighbor no matter what color they are, all right? Everybody's welcome here, okay? Everybody's loved and appreciated here. I don't care if you're black or white or red or brown, yellow, maybe you're Blue Man Group, okay? If you're off yellow, you might have jaundice. You might want to look into that. I'm not judging. I'm not a doctor. Let's do these Q-posts. Starting you off today at 43:52, where Q had posted at 5 minutes after the hour of 11, and then posted again 2 minutes later, 7 minutes after the hour of 11. We're actually on post 43:53. Q is just adding on to post 43:52, which is where we are starting. So let's take a look at this. This is a tweet from July 27, 2019. Consideration is being given to declaring Antifa the gutless, radical left whack jobs who go around hitting only non-fighters, people over the heads with baseball bats, a major organization of terror, along with MS-13 and others, would make it easier for police to do their job. All right, so then we see this link right here, and we've seen it before. This is a 67-page document from the U.S. government, the Counterinsurgency Guide. And of course, we're not going to cover all 67 pages because ain't nobody got time for that. But this was from back in 2009, and we're talking about counterinsurgency. Q says irregular warfare. Irregular warfare. Insurgency. And this is from the document. Insurgency is the organized use of subversion and violence to seize, nullify, or challenge political control of a region. As such, it is primarily a political struggle in which both sides use armed force to create space for their political, economic, and influence activities to be effective. Insurgency is not always conducted by a single group with a centralized military-style command structure, but may involve a complex matrix of different actors with various aims, loosely connected in dynamic and non-hierarchical networks. To be successful, insurgencies require charismatic leadership, supporters, recruits, supplies, safe havens, and funding, often from illicit activities. They only need the active support of a few enabling individuals, but the passive acquiescence of a large proportion of the contested population will give a higher probability of success. This is best achieved when the political cause of the insurgency has strong appeal, manipulating religious, tribal, or local identity to exploit common societal grievances or needs. Insurgents seek to gain control of populations through a combination of persuasion, subversion, and coercion while using guerrilla tactics to offset the strengths of government security forces. Their intent is usually to protract the struggle, exhaust the government, and win sufficient popular force to force capitulation or political accommodation. Consequently, insurgencies evolve through a series of stages. Through the progression and outcome will be different in almost every case. Okay, so it sounds like a lot of what we're going through right now. Are we really dealing with riots? We have the Minnesota governor now saying that this was coming from out of state. A lot of these arrests were all coming from out of state. Almost all of them, I think, at this point. So this is really curious, right? And I think we all saw this coming. We knew that this was no doubt being funded by a larger group, likely a Soros-funded group. And when I say Soros, I don't really so much mean George anymore, although I'm sure he's involved, but the guy's really old. But his children are fully grown men, and they know how to handle business these days, too. They've been trained for a long time in this. And we also talked about the strange case of the tweet from Erdogan, President Erdogan yesterday, Barack Obama, Eric Holder. There's been a lot of people kind of making these dog whistles lately, and now all of a sudden we have these big riots going on. They're even going after the White House. And, of course, D.C. police are largely standing down in certain areas. And most of this is happening in Democrat-controlled areas, right? Location, cities, loss of control, Democrat-controlled. Define stand down, safe haven order. Well, it looks like they're busting in these knuckleheads and letting them run roughshod. And of course, that would never happen in a state where the police force would put down the smackdown, right? Define organized group. Well, I don't know how organized these guys really are, but they definitely seem to be organizing enough to make some noise. Coordination of organized and funded groups in Democrat-controlled safe haven cities across the U.S. Pre-knowledge to groups. Well, Q's been posting this counterinsurgency guide for some time, which would suggest that that would be the case. But these next few links do the same thing. Now, this was from August of 2019 from Representative Jim. You could take that to the banks. This is from Indiana. And August 1st, 2019, he's writing to FBI Director Christopher Wray. We're not going to cover all this, but he was covering a few different incidents. One being June 19, 2019. And this is when the journalist Andy Ngo, he was assaulted, and he's been covering Antifa for quite some time, but he was assaulted in Portland. And of course, Portland is a great staging area for Antifa. They've had a lot of different rallies in Portland. But this guy, Andy Ngo, oddly enough, is he's a Vietnamese gay journalist. So it's pretty odd that they would attack him, but it just kind of shows that this doesn't really have much to do with any kind of politics, right? Now, the next incident here is July 13th, 2019. And this was where they threw some firebombs at an ICE detention center in Tacoma, Washington. And it looks like Seattle Antifa was largely involved. So these guys were talking about this back in the summer of 2019. The next link is the same thing, only from Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania. And once again, talking about the Andy Ngo situation and Antifa. So this is leading us towards Antifa. And here it is. This is a letter to William Barr. So they've been asking about this for a while, and it looks like Q's been talking about it for a while. And of course, President Trump now is coming right out and declaring Antifa a terrorist organization. And that's precisely what this third link is right here from July of 2019. So right around the same time, Senators Bill Cassidy of Louisiana and Ted Cruz of Texas have introduced a non-binding resolution that would label anti-fascist activities known as Antifa as domestic terrorists, according to the Washington Post. Okay, so this was all going down last summer, and it was all because of this big situation in Portland, like I said, which is a big hub for Antifa. And a lot of this was sparked over this incident with Andy Ngo. You may remember this guy was kind of walking through the streets, and they were throwing a bunch of things at him, and they were throwing what you saw on the video of what appeared to be milkshakes, but what later turned out to be that some of them had cement in them. So he ended up pretty bloodied and bruised, and has been long a target of Antifa, which, like I said, is very odd considering he is a gay Vietnamese journalist. Anyway, so that was the deal, and now it looks like POTUS is ready to put the smackdown on this. Q says, "Thank you for playing. Have a nice day." And if you'll notice, that nice day is capitalized. And that's very curious. I want to show you this tweet right here. I don't know this person, this Mandy. I just picked it off of Twitter here. But she says, "If you are at the North Dakota protest, leave. There are armed white men trying to shoot the protesters. Stay safe, please. Black Lives Matter." Okay, so there you can see a picture of some armed white protesters. And they do indeed look pretty menacing if that's the case, right? Well, we don't really know, but we do know that Antifa is likely going to try to look like that and cause trouble. So whether or not these particular men in the picture are causing any trouble, or whether they're good patriots, it's hard to say. But it looks like there could be something going down with the North Dakota protest, and maybe Q is letting us know that they are aware of it. Now, Q says, "Warfare, misspelling, unintentional, on the move." And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not so sure. There might be something significant to that E, but we're going to talk about that in just a minute too, because we are also on the move. I want to address that on the move reference in just a moment, but let's go ahead and cruise through a couple of these posts here. 43:54, 28 minutes after the hour of 11, we get taken back to post 9:40, and we're looking at these flags here. This is from the 1933 paramilitary wing of the Communist Party of Germany, otherwise known as the Antifaschistisch. Don't hate me, Germans. And on the right is the 2017 paramilitary wing of the Democratic Party, and they just took out some letters, and now it's called anti-fascist. Totally different. This one is red, and that one's black and red. And this one's got a lot of letters, and this one doesn't have as many. It's totally different. This one's going to the right, and one's going to the left. Come on, it's not the same flag. This one's action with a K. Totally different from action with a C. Just like crab with a K is totally different than crab with a C. Public service announcement. Eat the crab with a C. Stay away from crab with a K. Q says anti-American, domestic terrorists, organized, fascist, extreme radicals, violent, POTUS action coming. Homeland Security, FBI, DOJ action coming. Investigations may lead to domestic and foreign support targets. And that's what I do want to talk about in reference to this on the move that we'll talk about in just a second. But we do know that POTUS has really ramped up the rhetoric. As a matter of fact, today he was talking about the Secret Service being ready, the White House, attacks on the White House. And I got to tell you, it was a bit alarming. He went on a little diatribe, and I'd never seen anything like that. And of course, the Democrats are using this as an opportunity to say that he is calling for violence. Now, I have to say, it was a little bit incendiary, but I don't know that you could actually say he was calling for violence. It's just a really weird time. I've never seen so much vitriol being exchanged on this social media. But we know that a lot of these groups appear to be Antifa related, right? We don't see a whole bunch of MAGA hats. We don't see a whole bunch of American flags. We don't see a whole bunch of, how should I say this in a nice way? Manly looking men, all right? We don't see the bros coming out, pounding out windows and destroying the auto zones. So we know that something's up. We know that this is obviously Antifa related. And of course, President Trump is blaming this on Antifa too. Now, 43:55, 37 minutes after the hour of 11, we get this right here. They want you divided. They want race wars. They want class wars. They want religious wars. They want political wars. For God and country, learn. Stay strong. Stay together. Yeah, it's pretty easy to feel like we're divided, but I'm sure if we turned that TV off a little bit, we probably wouldn't feel that way. There's a lot of wonderful people doing a lot of wonderful things, and we're going to highlight that in just a second. So let's move on to the next post, 43:56. 58 minutes after the hour 12, we see just that. As you can see here, this is a tweet from Matt Finn, an army of volunteers in Minneapolis, helping neighbors clean up business damage. Bring a broom, they were told. What a sight. And that's really nice right there. That's exactly what we're talking about. Even the little guys in it on it. Q says, humanity at its finest. Indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, this is humanity right here, okay? I don't care what color you are, all right? Blue Man Group would show up and clean. I think they would. They've done stuff with brooms. I'm pretty sure they have. Speaking of humanity's finest, post 43:57, 19 minutes after the hour 1, these men are protecting an officer that was separated from his team and was outnumbered and in danger. This made me cry. Very cool. There's been some video going around about this. As you can see, a group of guys right here lined up, linked arms, protecting the boys in blue, who's protecting Bernos of Little Sicily. And these two guys appear to be having it out. Maybe they're not having it out. Don't know. Looks like they might be having it out. And this guy's got his phone going on. This guy right here looks like he's slightly amused by all of it. Here's another shot right here. Looks to be a screenshot from some video here. Just a group of local patriots protecting the local eatery. Very cool. Now, I'm going to venture into the speculative for just a moment. And it might make me sound a little bit biased, might make me sound a little bit prejudiced, okay? But over here at In Pursuit of Truth, I owe it to you to kick it to you straight, right? Just call it like I see it, that's all. I could be wrong. I'm just saying, this guy right here, and definitely this guy right here, look like the kind of guys that might have Bernos of Little Sicily on speed dial. I'm just saying. I'm not judging. That's not a bad thing. This is humanity's finest, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not here to judge. I'm just calling the shots like I see it, right? Maybe not. I will tell you this. Didn't see this at AutoZone. Didn't see this at Target. No. What are they protecting? Bernos of Little Sicily. So you know what I would do? You know what I would do if I were the manager, if I were the owner of Bernos of Little Sicily? Give it a little time, maybe a couple weeks, and then come out with that PR campaign. Protect Bernos at all costs. All right? There's a little free business advice from a guy from the future, near future, not the fancy kind, all right? Gotta eat. Well done, gentlemen. Humanity's finest. Post 4358, 39 minutes after the hour 1. The Twitter status is to the Daily Caller, AG Bill Barr. In many places, it appears the violence is planned, organized, and driven by anarchic left extremist groups. Those are left extremist groups from Antarctica. Far left extremist groups using Antifa-like tactics. Check it out.
Already, initial charges have been filed by the state. That process continues to move forward, and justice will be served. Unfortunately, with the rioting that is occurring in many of our cities around the country, the voices of peaceful protest are being hijacked by violent radical elements. Groups of outside radicals and agitators are exploiting the situation to pursue their own separate and violent agenda. In many places, it appears the violence is planned, organized, and driven by anarchic and left extremist groups, far left extremist groups, using Antifa-like tactics, many of whom travel from outside the state to promote the violence. We must have law and order on our streets and in our communities, and it is the responsibility of the local and state leadership in the first instance to halt this violence. The Department of Justice, including the FBI, the U.S. Marshals, the ATF, the DEA, and our 93 United States Attorney's Office, U.S. Attorney's offices around the country, are supporting these local efforts. We'll continue to support them and take all action necessary to enforce federal law. In that regard, it is a federal crime to cross state lines or to use interstate facilities to incite or participate in violent rioting, and we will enforce those laws. Thank you.
Q says, be vigilant. Yeah, it looks to be game on. It is a public call out from the POTUS, from Bill Barr. And this is really a good thing, although it is extremely ugly. It does look like this has been planned for quite some time. But the important part of this is that as we deal with them on a very public front, hopefully it will get the big reveal where all the money is coming from. And then hopefully that will also lead to a bigger story, getting to a wider audience, people realizing what this globalism issue really is and why they're funding the groups the way they are. People have already gone through so much pain over coronavirus, and now to see this, I think people are absolutely fed up. And at some point, this is the way that you get it showed to you, right? And Q has said this time after time. Sometimes you just gotta show it to them. Let's show you 43:59, 37 minutes after the hour 4. We get an NBC News link. Q says, update the list. From NBC News, FBI's top lawyer Dana Boente ousted amid Fox News criticism for role in Flynn investigation. After a 38-year career with the Justice Department, the FBI's top lawyer Dana Boente was asked to resign on Friday. Two sources familiar with the decision to dismiss Boente said it came from high levels of the Justice Department rather than directly from FBI Director Christopher Wray. His departure comes on the heels of recent criticism by Fox News for his role in the investigation of former Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. And I want to stop right there. I do believe at the bottom of this article, NBC does correct it. He was actually involved in the targeting of Carter Page. A spokesman for the FBI confirmed to NBC News that Boente did in fact resign on Friday. Fox News has recently criticized Boente's role in the investigation of Flynn, whose criminal charge for lying to the FBI was recently dropped by the Justice Department, based in part on the argument that his lies were not material to an underlying investigation. Okay, well, the key part is what Lou Dobbs is talking about right here. Shocking new reports suggest FBI General Counsel Dana Boente was acting in coordination with FBI Director Christopher Wray to block the release of that evidence that would have cleared General Flynn. So that's the big deal. It looks like Boente was just basically bottling things up here. Wray formally asked for Boente's resignation, but the decision to end his tenure at the FBI came from Attorney General William Barr's Justice Department, which oversees the FBI, according to two sources. Okay, so not only was he helping Wray, but it looks like Wray was pretty slow to have this guy retired, right? A spokesman for the FBI said Boente announced on Friday his decision to retire retire, which will take effect June 30th. Fantastic. And here's the correction at the bottom here. An earlier version of this article misstated the target of FISA warrants signed by Dana Puente. The warrants involve President Donald Trump's former campaign advisor Carter Page, not former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. The reference to the warrants has been removed. Okay, well, fair enough, but I think like I said, the big deal is that we're trying to get this information, and Ray's slow walk and everything, and it looks like Puente was just another roadblock, and now he's been removed. Q says update the list. If that's what the thing that you're doing, I'm not the list guy. I'm not in charge of the list. I'm in charge of something else. 4360, 11 minutes after the hour of 5, Insurrection Act of 1807. That sounds pretty serious. Determination that the various state and local authorities are not up to the task of responding to the growing unrest. That appears to be the case, right? We're watching a lot of crazy stuff on TV. Now, to be fair, we don't necessarily know that everything on our TV is going to be true, but we do know that we see a lot of crowds, we see a lot of violence, and we can't really tell who's who because everybody's dressed up as somebody else. It's absolute madness, right? Q says, call the ball. Well, I hope we're not talking about the football. For those of you not familiar, that is a term used for it's like a briefcase. It's a big bag, actually, that the Secret Service carries around with the president. And that's all got all sorts of nuclear codes and whatnot, all kinds of hoopties that I'm not privy to. It's out of my purview, all right? I'm not the list guy either. I can't figure out where I fit in, but I don't know anything about the football or the list. Anyway, I don't think that's probably what we're referencing here. That seems a little bit extreme. My other thoughts were this could be some sort of reference to something going on with the NASA SpaceX launch that we just witnessed. Pretty incredible, putting some astronauts back up there real high, and we'll see how that plays out. That could be a reference to this. Now, I said the other day that this Starlink system that Elon Musk is setting up, whether you are in favor of it or not, appears to be in the final stages here. This should be kind of the last installation that he was looking to do, but or at least for now, to get it started. So this is really interesting times that we live in. My other thought was this could be a reference to Vladimir Putin in his exchange a couple of years ago when he handed off a football to President Trump. Soccer ball, for those of you Americans that like to use the soccer lingo, all right? It's an actual ball you use with your foot. It seems logical to call it a football. I'm just saying. But this was during the World Cup over there in Russia, and they had a particular ball that was actually being sponsored by Adidas that actually had this little, it was kind of gimmicky, but it was a little bit of a microchip in there. And that, of course, set Lindsey Graham off at the time, saying that he demanded that this be checked and whatever. So is this some sort of reference to some sort of information that was handed off from Vladimir Putin? That could be another reference to call the ball. But I got to tell you, one reference stuck out to me, which is a naval term. This is when planes are coming in to land on like aircraft carriers, and maybe they'll call for assistance from the carrier, and it's a series of, I don't really know how to explain it because I don't know that I understand it that well, but it's like a series of lights. I'm not sure if they're like LED lights or whatever, but they help guide in the plane, and that's actually literally called calling the ball. So I don't know if that's a reference to that, but those are a few options for you. You can let me know down below. Either way, it's serious because we're talking about the Insurrection Act of 1807, and I don't know what kind of ball they used back then, but it probably didn't have a microchip in it. Post 4361, 33 minutes after the hour of 6, we get this quote from President Donald Trump. Every citizen in every community has the right to be safe in their workplace, safe in their homes, and safe in our city streets. This is the sacred right of all Americans that I am totally determined to defend. Very nice. And the Twitter status is to Be Voice, who shows this video right here of the protests in Chicago. And, I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's obviously heartbreaking, even knowing the fake nature and the stage nature of so many of these videos, not knowing which ones are real, which ones are fake. It doesn't matter. This is terrible to watch. People look like they're really getting hurt. And, any way you slice it, this is just not the way that we want to see America go. So maybe this is what people need to see to get fed up. But all I can say is please stay safe, Patriots. Don't be a hero out there on the streets. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your family. Q says on the ready. God save America indeed. And those are your Q posts. I want to leave you with one last thing. I was talking about this on the move and what it might be referencing. This right here is known as Move On, moveon.org, civic action. Also known by the name of its website, moveon.org, describes itself as the largest independent, progressive, digitally connected organizing group in the United States. Well, that sounds very significant, right? Gathers donations from its members and from large-scale progressive donors like George Soros. So could this be what we're talking about here? And of course, they partner with other progressive organizations, and that's what I mean when we see these videos. We're not always sure who's who, right? But this looks like one of these possible groups that could be one of these active groups. If you see there down at the bottom, number 5, which is aimed at ending deportation of illegal immigrants. What that usually means is that they recruit them to do their little deeds. So that's a very big possibility right there. But I want to turn you on to another group, and this is actually known as On the Move, the Cultural Mobility Information Network in Europe and worldwide. I have no idea what that means. Cultural mobility? What is? Just sit there on that for a second. Cultural mobility. What does that even mean? Find mobility opportunities with travel costs paid and more. Wow. Sounds like we got a bingo there. Now, this is the Twitter status from June 2014. But of course, what I found most curious about it is their latest banner header right there, which is a picture of a brick. Speaking of bricks, George Soros seems to be bricks right now, leaving them on city streets. And as you can see in this video right here, this gentleman's talking about just that. Check it out.
This the setup.
They put them there on purpose,
Y'all know
bro.
where we at.
They gonna set them on right up on the rail.
Y'all know what building this is. This the setup.
They put them there on purpose,
Y'all know where
bro.
we at.
They gonna set them on right up on the rail.
Y'all know what building this is
Come
right
on,
here.
man.
I ain't even gonna say what name it is.
Hey, where do them bricks go to? Where do them
This
bricks
is
go
setup.
to? Where do them bricks
We gotta
go to?
do better.
Ain't no damn
We gotta
construction.
do better.
Ain't no damn construction around here.
I see.
Ain't no damn construction around here. You just gonna set a pallet of bricks right there. Oh, okay.
Listen, I did jury duty 3 months ago. Y'all don't keep no bricks right there. Do better.
So you get the idea, Patriots. Stay safe, stay on the ready. God save America. This is Sir Patrick Mack, and I'm going to get out of here so you can get this video today. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. Thanks to all of you who do that already. And if you're not joining me on one of my other channels, check them out down below in the YouTube description on YouTube. That's all down below. My Gab, my BitChute, my DropSpace, and whatever else I got down there. My P.O. Box, and my Patreon if you'd like to support the channel. It's all linked down below. This is Sir Patrick Mack. Stay safe, America.